In the last couple of videos, we looked at a couple techniques that we could use to quickly and easily enhance eyebrows. Every image is different, and quite frankly, those techniques won't work in every single image. And in those cases, you need to have some backup. You need other ways that you can go about enhancing eyebrows. The other way really is a bit more laborious. It requires you creating a brush and literally painting strands of hair into the eyebrow area. I'm going to go ahead and show you how you can achieve this. Ultimately, you're going to get the best results if you do have a pressure-sensitive tablet. So to start this off, what I want to do is create a new layer. I'm going to create a new layer by clicking the New Layer button, and then I'm going to select the Pen tool. P is the keyboard shortcut. Now, honestly, this image has already been retouched. It looks really good, but we just want to add a little bit more body to the eyebrows. So we're going to come over and create a path that's going to represent a strand of hair. So go ahead and click down here towards the bottom, and then click up here towards the top, and drag a little bit to create an arc. The next thing that you have to do is select the Brush tool. B is the keyboard shortcut. With the Brush tool, you want to come over and choose a brush. It doesn't really matter which one. Sometimes some of these more artistic ones work well. You want a small brush size. I would start off somewhere in the 5-pixel area. And then you can press Return to collapse that. You want to sample a color from either her eyebrow, maybe her hair, in some cases even her eye, and you can do that by pressing the I key on the keyboard to activate the eyedropper tool. Then just come over here and click somewhere to get a darker color value. So you don't want it to be too dark. You want it to be a reasonable color that would match what's going on here in her eyebrow. Then you can press the B key on your keyboard. And what I want you to do is just make a brush stroke. Again, I'm using the tablet, so you may see some pressure sensitivity here, but if I just go ahead and make a basic stroke, you can see what it looks like. Now, it's a little too thick, so I'll go ahead and undo that, Command-Z or Control-Z on Windows. And then I'm going to reduce the size a little bit by using the left bracket key on the keyboard. So I'm down to 2 pixels now. And then I'll just go ahead and create another brush stroke. I think that looks pretty good. So I'll go ahead and undo that as well. So I'm happy with the color. I'm happy with the size of the brush. Now what we can do is we can stroke that path. Now we can do that by coming over to the Paths panel. Here inside the Paths panel, you can right-click or control-click on the work path. Then you want to choose Stroke Path. The tool, of course, is going to be the brush tool. It's going to use the last configuration you had for this tool, which is that brush size that we just set up and the color. The other thing that you want to do here is simulate pressure, whether if you have a pressure-sensitive tablet or not. This is going to create a brush stroke that's thinner at the beginning and thinner at the end of the stroke. That's going to ultimately yield much better results. So go ahead and click OK. Once you click OK, you can click away from the work path, by the way, here in the Paths panel. If you come over to the Layers panel, that path has been stroked. It's hard to see, so press the V key on your keyboard to activate the Move tool. If you see the brush stroke, great, click and drag it, but if you don't, just use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So that's what we have. And if you zoom into this, you'll see that it's lighter at the beginning and lighter at the end of the brush stroke, which is exactly what we want. Now what we want to do is define a brush preset based upon this brush path. We can do that by right-clicking or control-clicking on Layer 1, and in the contextual menu, we can choose Duplicate Layer. In the Duplicate Layer dialog box, the destination will be a new document. Go ahead and click OK. It creates the new document, and of course, the new document that's created, its dimensions match that of the previous document, which is way too big. We do have a brush stroke here. It is right over here. It's really hard to see, but it does exist. What we want to do is select that brush stroke. The best and easiest way to do that is to hold down the Command key on the Mac, Control on Windows, and click on that layer. And it's going to select all the content on that layer, which is the brush stroke. Then you can come up to the Image menu, and from the Image menu, you can choose Crop, and that's going to crop down that image to a more reasonable size. Then you can come up to the Edit menu, and from the Edit menu, you can choose Define Brush Preset. Go ahead and name it. I'm going to call it Eyebrow. You can see that it's 81 pixels, so you know the size of this brush. Go ahead and click OK, and you've defined the brush. So let's return back to the previous document. Under the Window menu, I'm going to go ahead and select that document. We don't want anything on this layer right now, so I'll go ahead and select everything, Command-A or Control-A on Windows. Then you can press the delete or backspace key to remove that piece of artwork, and then deselect the selection, which is Command D or Control D on Windows. So now that that layer is clear, we can experiment with this brush. So press the B key on your keyboard to activate the brush tool. It should come in with that brush already selected, but if not, you can right-click or control-click, and you can select that brush here from the brushes panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over with the tablet, the pressure-sensitive tablet, and I'm just going to make a couple brush strokes here so we can see what it looks like. So go ahead and tap or click, and we can see what it looks like. So that's what we have. So that's pretty good, honestly. Now I'm getting some behavior here, and my guess is that I have some options set up within the brushes panel that I'll want to reconfigure. So let's take a look at that. If you come over to the brushes panel, and if you don't see it for some reason over here on the right-hand side, you can come up to the window menu, and from the window menu, you can brush. The keyboard shortcut is F5. So right now we have shape dynamics turned on. We kind of want that, to be honest with you. We have a size jitter of 85%. You can dial this back or add to it. It's really up to you. You get a preview down here towards the bottom. Sometimes that's not the best representation of what the actual brush stroke will look like, but it gives you an idea as to what's going on. I also have angle jitter set to 1% right now, and it's being controlled by direction. So this is what's giving me that kind of natural change within the brushstroke as I create the brushstroke. But there are other options here that we need to consider. The other thing that I want to do is I want to come over and maybe increase the scatter a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over to the right. And again, you always want to kind of just test it out to see what it is that you're getting. I think that looks pretty good. Now what we want to do is maybe come back to the brush tip shape, and you probably want to control the spacing. Maybe I want to space it out a little bit more. So again, I'll just come back here and see what that looks like. It's pretty good, right? Not bad. The only problem here is it looks like the hair's kind of in the wrong direction. Fortunately for me, I can just choose Flip X, and I think that's going to give me a much closer result to what I'm looking for. If not, you can always come over here and make adjustments to the angle as well. So you have a lot of control here in terms of what it's going to look like. Maybe I don't want to flip it on the x-axis. I think that's probably looking a little bit better. We'll go ahead and set this back here a little bit. Maybe flip it back and just try this out a little bit more. All right, so I think we're getting pretty close here, but you get the idea. You're going to have to spend some time working with these different adjustments. There's something else that you can do is you can come over here and select transfer, and in the transfer section, you can set your flow jitter to pen pressure. And what that will do is it'll give you the ability to create a lighter eyebrow strand of hair if you're applying less pressure to the tablet. And then you can kind of like build up that effect a little bit. So I think we're in pretty good shape here, to be honest with you. Let's go ahead and collapse the brush panel. I'm going to select all on this layer and delete it by pressing the delete or backspace key. And then, of course, you want to deselect. I'm zoomed in right now, so you can't see that the entire image is selected, or the entire layer, I should say. So I do want to deselect that. It's Command D or Control D on Windows. Then you want to come in and start painting. So I'm just going to come over here, and you want to be pretty careful about it. But if you make a mistake, it's pretty easy to correct as well. So you don't want to be super careful about it. But I'm just going to go ahead and just paint in the eye. That's all I'm doing right now. And see, down here towards the bottom, it's getting a little crazy. But that can be okay, and I'll show you how to quickly and easily correct that. All right. And you want to make sure you do the same thing over here on the right-hand side. You just want to build up the eyebrow. And again, I'm getting some rogue brush strokes here. So it actually worked out really well on this end here, the way it's kind of coming down. But then it kind of loses it. And don't be afraid to undo and to change direction as you're working with the brush. In this case, I'm kind of coming over here. I'm getting the wrong angle. So I almost want to just flip this around a little bit in this case, and then come back here and add to it. So it is important to always come over here and play with the direction of the brush. But you just want to come in here and make some brush strokes. And like I said, I'm making kind of a mess here, but it's really easy to fix. So don't be super sensitive about it. All right, so there's some adjustments that I've made. Now what you want to do is come over and select the eraser tool. And with the eraser tool, you want the mode to be set to brush, and you probably want a softer edged brush. And what you want to do is just come in here and fix the small mistakes that you've made. And so I'm just clicking and dragging. If you're using a tablet, you can be even more precise with it. This is just kind of cleaning that up. I'll do the same thing over here. There's a couple brush strokes I'm not happy with. And if you want to see what you did, of course, you can always turn off the visibility of the background layer. So you can kind of see the brush strokes that you did make. And so it's a little crazy over here. So I'll go ahead and fix that. It really is a nice way to kind of figure out what needs to be fixed as well. So it is important, of course, to zoom out of this. You're not going to be looking at the image at that magnification level. But now we've added some more body to the eyebrows. I'll go ahead and just clean this up a little bit over here. I think this looks pretty good. This is the before, and this is the after. So a nice subtle change that we're able to make with a realistic effect because we have single strands of hair that we're painting into the eyebrow. The last thing that you may want to do if you're in the brushes panel, because you spent all this time setting up all these different options for the brush, is to save it as a preset. So I have the brush that we just created selected. You can see all the options we have set up for shape dynamics and scattering and transfer. Come up to the top right hand corner here and choose new brush preset, and you can call this like eyebrow finished, something along those lines. And we want to capture the brush size in the preset as well. Go ahead and click OK. Now you can dial that in, or call it up anytime that you need it when you're retouching your photographs. So again, more tedious than the last two techniques, but hopefully it gives you a good idea as to how you can go about creating natural eyebrows in Photoshop.